At the top of the newscast, plenty of students across the Southland were given the option to take off their masks today after the state's mandate expired over the weekend. But just because they can take their masks off, some students and parents might be hesitant to do so.
Yeah, for more on this topic now, we are joined by Dr. Ashley Zucker, a child and adolescent psychiatrist with Kaiser Permanente, San Bernardino. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Dr. Zucker.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, doctor, I'll start with, do you think it's a safe time to end the mask mandate in schools?
It's hard to know for sure. I think everything with COVID is one day at a time. I do believe we have to trust our public health officials, and if they feel like this is the right time, then it's the right time.
And doctor, what should parents know right now if their child is not vaccinated? Should they still have them wearing masks?
I think it's a very individualized decision. Folks have to recognize, what's the personal risk they want to take for either their child or for their families. They may have some other high-risk folks in their household that they're concerned about, and also just what the COVID numbers are looking like in our communities. And that's really going to be up to the family to decide. I think, it's also an individualized decision about the getting vaccinated and whether that masking makes sense too.
And doctor, what positive impacts can getting rid of that mask have on students? I know, speaking from personal experience, my children are somewhat reluctant to do so because it's something they're so comfortable with now. But, one of my sons is vaccinated, and I feel like if we can help encourage them, that might be somewhat helpful and have some positive impacts. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think you raise a really important point that for our kids, they've been wearing masks for quite a long time. And so for them, it feels safer to be wearing a mask. And so there can be some anxiety about not having that mask anymore. And so I think it's important to talk to our kids about how they're feeling and what their thoughts are about wearing a mask. I do think that the positive impact is this sense of return to normalcy for all of us, our kids and our teachers included. And so that can really bring some helpful optimism to our children, but also letting them gradually feel comfortable with it. Maybe they want a mask while they're indoors still, but take it off outdoors. And then over time, they'll start to feel more comfortable without their mask.
And Dr. Zucker, how do you address that sort of fear or newness of going maskless? We're talking about how used to our kids have become to having their masks on. How do you have that conversation? How do you have that conversation with children? What do you start with?
I think just leaving the door open for them to ask their own questions is really important. I have 3 kids of my own, and we had the conversation this weekend about going back to school today and what that would be like for them. And they asked me a lot of questions, but I also asked them what they were comfortable with, and really giving them back that sort of sense of control of being able to wear that mask if it felt safer to them, and also just being very respectful of what other kids around them are choosing to do as well.
And doctor, do you think there are any new safety precautions that schools should consider implementing?
I think we have to continue all the safety precautions we've been doing all along, making sure we're doing good hand hygiene, keeping our physical distance apart. I think the beauty of living in Southern California is we can keep our windows and doors open and allow for good circulation. So that's a great thing for our schools to do. And also having our kids get outside as much as possible into that fresh air.
All right, good advice. Dr. Zucker, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.